I've helped businessmen and women master speaking professionally in Japan, and we found out that not a lot of people actually know what to say or how to act in a business environment, like at your job. Let's look at a few scenarios that you need to master in order to actually sound business-like in Japanese. All right, so we have 3 situations. We have meetings, presentations, and actually reporting your progress, like to your boss or to your coworkers, right? Today I want to focus on presentations, because if you can give a presentation in Japanese, well, guess what? You're the new hotshot, right? My name is Sean Narron, and I'm an interpreter here in Japan. And I also give presentations like every week in meetings, okay, at my workplace. Right now, you're going to learn how to actually give a presentation, a real one, in Japanese, okay? You want to grab people's attention or, get more business clients through your insanely great presentation? If so, guys, please continue watching. Okay, so let's look at the 4 stages of a presentation. We got the intro, the main topic, and kind of maybe 3 situations. So closing and QA is kind of the same thing. So intro, main topic, closing, and Q&A session, right? I was recently working with a client. He's an American guy in Tokyo, and he runs a business there. And as we were practicing our presentation skills together, he would often tell me that after he, mentioned something in his presentation, the audience immediately looks at the Japanese assistant. So he would always bring an assistant. So whenever he didn't know the Japanese words and all that, they would look at him, okay, the assistant. The intro part of the presentation is the best place for you to show that you're actually capable of giving a presentation in Japanese, because the moment your audience sees that you're, for example, your word choice kind of sucks, they're not listening to you anymore, right? So with this particular person, I noticed that he was trying to get every single word right, that it sounded a little too slow for the audience, and that kind of was making the audience not interested. And guys, honestly, so it's not really about how many words you know, like when it comes to presentations, but it's more about how you speak. Your tone really, it becomes really crucial here. So, for example, if I said, today I want to introduce our best-selling product with a big smile on your face, you probably listen, right? But if I said, today I want to talk to you about my product, people who are listening will lose interest, right? You see what I mean? This person was doing this, right? So with this guy, we tried to fix that. And how did we fix that? We made sure that, he literally understood every single word that he says in the intro. So, so that he doesn't pause, right? So we were killing 2 birds with 1 stone, because by understanding every single word in his script, he didn't only learn more words, but he was also, he seemed really incredibly confident. And he mentioned later to me that the amount of questions that he got in his last QA session increased like crazy, and therefore he sold more stuff, right? So this kind of explains how important your intros are, if this makes sense, right? So you got to nail it before you scale it. Get your first 30 seconds of your presentation right, and you can 5x or even 10x your business, right? This is how important your intro is. So now we just finished our intro. You know how important it is. So now we're going to move on to the part where you actually talk about your product or idea that you're selling, right? About the main product, we should always include these: what the thing is, who it's for, and also the benefits. This is very important, okay? Another person we were actually working with, she had a design company in Japan, and she'd have these amazing ideas, but she wasn't able to present the thing properly. So in a simple sentence, I'm just gonna give it to you, okay? Here's what it would look like. This is kind of my favorite framework, because it sounds very catchy, especially in Japanese. So the framework is, this shirt is for pregnant women, and it makes breastfeeding outside extremely easy. That's the sentence. Now let's look at the framework. It's, this product is for type of person, and it makes some sort of action somewhere extremely easy. For example, right? This is just an example. So in Japanese, it will look like this. このシャツは特に妊婦向けで、主にお出かけの際に役立ちます。なぜなら、いつでも授乳ができるタイプだからです。So we've got this shirt, and for what kind of person it is, and it goes back and forth a little bit, but we have お出かけ, which is going outside. So we get the location, and なぜなら is why. We also have because it makes breastfeeding easy, right? By saying this, people are immediately going to understand what the idea is and who it serves, okay, about your product. So right now, if you're kind of counting on your Japanese assistant who's always next to you, you're not going to need to count on them anymore if you know how to say this, right? I mean, it feels great to have them around, but imagine everyone in the room wanting to hear you speak more in your presentation. Sounds amazing, right? I'd love that, right? Another important thing that you want to add here is a simple question to actually start engaging with people. So do not forget this. Let's be real. 20 minutes into the presentation, your audience is probably thinking about dinner or, their kids at some point, right? We want to bring their brains back to the presentation and, we want them to listen to you. We don't want them thinking about their spouses at home, okay? So here's what we ask. Who here thinks that being able to benefit when would make their lives easier? With our example, that becomes, who here thinks that being able to breastfeed easily when you're out with your friends will be awesome, right? That lady I was talking about, after she implemented this, she immediately got oohs and ahs from the crowd because guess what? You don't look Japanese. Your audience doesn't expect you to be able to, not only give a presentation, but ask legit, engaging questions to them, right? So in Japanese, that's この中でお出かけの際に授乳が簡単にできたらいいなと思う人いますか? That's the question. Who here thinks that it will be nice to, be able to breastfeed outside, right? Asking this question, I'm trying to make you use this framework, okay? What you ask is, again, I'll say it again. Who here thinks that being able to outcome easily when you're at a location will be awesome? This is something that you should ask, especially in any other language, but especially in front of Japanese people, because they're going to appreciate it more because you don't look Japanese and they would appreciate that question. Asking this question is very important because it'll make them, engage with you, and it doesn't make it a one-way thing. If you want them to be interested in your thing, you should always be communicating with them in your presentations. That's what I believe. So before we start closing and entering the QA part, we always ask another question. Here's one more question we could ask. We want to make sure that they actually understand the product and the benefits so far. The stuff that we talked about so far, if they understand it, that's great, right? So you say, does everyone understand the product and the benefits? That's ここまで大丈夫でしょうか? And the key here is, I'll say it again. ここまで大丈夫でしょうか? The key here is that most Japanese people probably won't respond, in my experience. They won't respond to you there if you don't ask a specific person. So if you're in front of a crowd and if you ask everybody, they're probably not going to answer. They're probably not going to respond. So you ask the lady or the guy in the second or third row. You go, 2列目の女性の方、ここまで大丈夫ですか? ここまで大丈夫ですか? If he or she nods, you probably did a good job, explaining so far, right? Now that we know that most people understand what the product is and who it's for, we can now actually start our Q&A part. And when we transition from actually talking about our product or idea to, Q&A, when we transition like this, we have to say this. We say, ということで、質問に入りたいと思います. So many people screw this part up because they just directly say, after talking about the product, you're like, okay, guys, you can just start asking questions. But guys, think about it. If you were to insert something like, if you guys don't mind, we'll move on to the Q&A. It sounds more natural, doesn't it? So if you guys don't mind, let's start our Q&A session. This says, ということで質問に入りたいと思います. ということで is let's transition into, okay? And here's a trick. When someone asks you a question there, this is a Q&A session, right? You always want to acknowledge that problem by saying, wow, that's nice. That's a great question. That's なるほどですね. なるほどですね. Or いい質問ですね. いい質問ですね. These both mean, it's something like, oh, I see what you're saying. Or that's just such a great question. So many people get so nervous when the audience asks questions. But remember, you always have your Japanese assistant next to you, right? So if you don't understand something, you can always have that assistant answer for you. It might be like your coworker. You always have backup, so try not to panic. At this point, in many cases, especially in Japan, people in the room probably would enjoy getting answers from a different person. So you can just hand the microphone to the other guy, right? Guy or lady or whatever. That's how you give a solid presentation. So that, people actually think that you're confident about yourself and also your product. And you cannot only implement one of these. You have to do all. But most importantly, I would say that just nail the intro. The first 30 seconds of the presentation is going to determine, if people are going to just sleep from that point or wake up and actually listen to you, right? So please please do your best and nail the intro, okay? And the stuff that I'm talking about in this video, it comes from personal experience. Not only my clients, but I give presentations, like I said, every week. So, there are times where I gotta think, oh, my boss is a little sleepy today. Oh, he's in a good mood. You kind of have to change the tone a little bit, right? Change the mood. So look at the response, right? But even before looking at the response, if your intro is pretty legit, they're gonna listen to you, right? So I really hope that after watching this video, you can, implement all the stuff that I talked about today. Please do use my framework that I taught you, the Japanese words and all that. And I really hope that you can nail your next presentation. Guys, if you have any questions about how your presentations are, please do comment below. I'll be happy to answer them. And if you really need help, practicing your presentations in business Japanese, I do have a training program. It's a 12-week program, so you can apply from the link below. That was Sean reporting from the Nagoya region, and I'll talk to you in our next video. Bye-bye.